Alright, welcome back to the channel. It's Ninja Turtle here, and today we clearly have quite a bit going on. We have 3 custom-made Captain Marvel figures. Why 3? I'll get into that in a little bit, but we're going to cover them, kind of go through. They're fairly similar in build, but I will point out the differences. Obviously, you can see some differences there, but I will go into that as well. This is Captain Marvel as comic book form. We're not doing movie, though we do borrow some things from the movies here in these builds. And let's just go ahead and talk about it. Why did I make 3 Captain Marvel figures at the same time? By the way, if you didn't join me on Twitch, I do stream myself painting these things and sometimes sculpting. I sculpted these on Twitch. I painted these on Twitch. That was legitimately, no exaggerating, a 10-hour long stream of me painting these 3 ladies here. I started at like 4 p.m. And then I ended around 2 a.m. the next day, finishing up painting these. It took an incredibly long amount of time, and I hope to never have to do that again. Now, but why 3? So first off, I wanted to make a Captain Marvel, and I already had, and I still have, though it's pretty much scrap and fodder at this moment, the original Hasbro Captain Marvel right here. You can see I broke off that, just trying to take this off. And the only reason why I took that off is so I can get the sash, and I put it right here on this one. So that sash is from the original Hasbro Captain Marvel, but everything else from this figure is not being used. But anyway, I decided to make one because I wanted to remake that figure. By the way, I broke it as I was making this one, so it wasn't I broke it and I decided to make a new one. It was broken after the fact. But I want my Captain Marvel to look more like this in general, so that's why I decided to remake that figure. Secondly, as I was figuring out what costume I wanted to make, I couldn't decide. I just said, you know, I like the original, I have the original, I should remake that. But she has a new costume now. It's slightly different, but you know, different enough in build. But then there's the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite version, and I like that one too. And I need one. I need a Captain Marvel because this one was this older one was displayed on my Marvel vs. Capcom collection for this entire time. But that's not how she looks in the game. So I wanted to make sure I had one that looks like she was in the game. So instead of me picking one, I was too indecisive and I decided to make all 3. So with that said, I made all 3 of those. This is right here. This is going to be a comic book first costume, like the first redesign for Captain Marvel, because she was Miss Marvel before that. I know all of that stuff. And this is how she looks more or less when she was redesigned to be Captain Marvel. Also, I took this effect from the original figure as well. So the sash and this little pink globby thing as well. And then here, the one in the middle is meant to be the more modern look for her. However, and I say modern, she looks like this more or less in the comic books right now. But I actually took design sheets directly from Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom. No, I keep messing this up. I took design sheets specifically from Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 for this Carol. Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. They have in their collections, like when you unlock stuff, the design sheets for all of their different designs. And I looked at that design to design this Carol here. But she does look more or less like this in the comic books right now. So it's both the game version of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 as well as a current comic book version of Carol. And then this one is meant to be the Ultimate or Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite version of Captain Marvel. So like I said, we have a lot of similarities but some differences, and we'll go over those right now. First off, let's just start with the original Captain Marvel. We'll work our way around. We can actually kind of start with both of these too. All three of them really have all the same boots. So first off, we actually are going to borrow a couple things from the movie Captain Marvel, and namely it would be these boots. These boots here are the boots that are on all three of these Captain Marvels. However, on this one, the first appearance, first redesigned Captain Marvel, as well as the Marvel Infinite version, I sanded all of the details off of the boots, so you can see it has lots of sculpt on there and just lots of, you know, bumps and grooves and what have you. I sanded that off and just kind of made them smooth all along the outside, and they still have the treads at the bottom of the shoes. On, again, that's on this one and on the Marvel Infinite version. They all, both of these are smoothed out, but then on this one in the middle, I kept that detail there and just painted around it, and I think it really works really well given the way her shoes are painted. Now, admittedly, I should have painted more here on the ankle. I didn't quite. I should have kept that whole red going up there. Just now noticing it, more of a recent thing that I noticed. I should have done that, but I didn't, and so it doesn't look as good as it could, but it still doesn't look all that bad. All of the red, for the most part, was the same red painted on all of the figures. So it is Model Masters Guards red for all of the body parts that have red, so it all matches. But then you can see I have quite a few differences in blues. I really wanted that to be one distinguishing difference between all three of them, is how different the blue color was. All right, going back to our first Captain Marvel, and also again, the similarities are there. This blink, these legs are relatively the biggest and longest legs that fit on an average size figure. So I wanted those for Carol, so she has these same blink legs on this figure and on this figure. No real modifications, they just were painted straight up. So on this one here, we have this color. Blue is Model Masters, again, it's dark blue, and that's the same blue all around. The entire figure is dark blue. And the only thing here is worth noting is that I painted on the little buttons on the side. Down here, that's the same as well on her forearms. I painted those on for this particular figure, which is more or less how they handled it at Hasbro. They just painted those on. It's not the same amount of buttons, but it's, you know, they did this with a machine, I did this by hand. Differences, you know, it is what it is. But other than that, that's the only real detail on these legs. For these legs, for Ultimate Alliance version, we just have this little red splotch on the back, but no real detail outside of that. Now this blue, though, much darker, and this is both intentional and not intentional on how it looks. You can kind of see like some of the swirling and some of the different, you know, changes in the color there. So it's meant to be, you know, what it is called, actually it's dark blue pearl, but I also mixed a little bit of black in there because it wasn't dark enough. It would have been more or less like this color, but it would have been more pearlescent. But I didn't want it to be this color. I wanted it to be darker. I wanted more navy blue, midnight blue sort of color. So I threw a little bit of black in there. And I don't know if it's because it didn't mix well enough. I'm pretty sure, I mean, I painted this whole figure. I think it did mix just fine. So part of it is the paint itself is very transparent. And this will probably be very, the last time I used this transparent paint of Model Masters, because it's very frustrating. to work with. It still looks good. I like it. It's kind of like a galaxy, looking into a galaxy, but it's not a full like whole color like this is. So, you know, to each his own if you're going to use that, but it is mixed up, that dark blue pearl with black, and that's why it's quite a bit darker and having all these swirls there. But again, these are the same legs. As far as the rest of these two go, we're going to kind of concentrate more on these two for the moment. Again, the sash comes from the actual Captain Marvel that Hasbro made, as well as this blue, or excuse me, pink goblet thing. The torso is, the lower torso is just a standard Kate Bishop type of torso that you find on any old figure. This one in particular is a Dazzler figure, right? And then same thing with the tops. In fact, we can actually cover that as well. The top on this one, as well as the the top torso on this one as well, is just a standard Kate Bishop thing. I believe these are both from a Polaris figure. I could be wrong about that. It doesn't really matter. But they're just standard Kate Bishop stuff. But that's the top torso. So let's go back here. The lower torso on this one, the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, is this torso here from a Spider-Woman. So this is the more recent Spider-Woman body, and one of the reasons why I use it, which I didn't realize real quick, that these particular torsos are more like a body suit sort of thing, like a jacket slash body suit. One, the butt is wider on it than a standard Kate Bishop one. Alright, see what happens when I get excited talking about action figure butts? I knock everything over. Anyway, this is a very standard Kate Bishop lower torso, and then this one is the Spider-Woman, which is what I used here. Which again, I didn't realize how much more butt there is here, but you do have, like, this is, I mean, you can paint this a flesh tone and she'd just be naked butt cheeks. This one, it's more of like she has on pants or a jacket or something like that, and there's some in there, but it's really kind of covered up like she's wearing actual pants. So it does go wider. It does look like she's wearing an actual bodysuit. So it's something that I've learned now that I've actually used this, and I'm just going to keep that in mind in the future for future builds. But yeah, that's how that works. And then also there's all these really nice fabric ripples going all up and down the side of this torso, the stomach as well. I did sand some of the details off, like this little belt, the little V here, all that sort of stuff. And then yeah, it's really, the belt, I did re-sculpt that on, so that is epoxy sculpt on this belt, going around with the little pockets on the sides going along it. Those are from a Lady Deadpool. Those usually are like the thigh pouches, and I just repurposed them for this belt, and then made my own like sort of sash thing here. This the star, I made these stripes just out of generic plastic. I believe this actually is Smooth Cast 45D, but I could be wrong. But just made all of this out of my own plastic. So yeah, that's that build. And then also for this Carol, like I said, the Spider-Woman torso is the lower. Spider-Woman is also the top as well. So it was sanded off because there is that spider logo that's on there. I sanded all of that off and then re-sculpted, like on all three of them, the whole symbol and so on. There's a little bit of sculpt on the shoulders as well. You can kind of see that. And then of course it goes along the back for all three of them. So on this one though, does not have a peg hole, and you can see here on the Kate Bishop torsos it has a peg hole. Same thing with the other one, has a peg hole, and that's fine with me because although I wouldn't mind it. But I do plan on having all the two with peg holes actually pegged on my wall, so they'll be flying, hopefully, if I have enough stands for them, or things like that for them. I think I do. So I do plan on putting these two on walls, and then this one will be just standing in my normal Marvel collection. And while we're at it, we might as well keep covering her. She does have these like gloves, like almost, they're just regular hands, but then these little glove pieces come from Dazzler. There are other figures that have it, but Dazzler is probably the easiest one. It was blue, repainted red, and then let's see what else we got going on this one. You see the paint details. All of the gold, by the way, that is not Model Masters acrylic. It's actually the first time I've used this brand of paint. It is the Citadel, and although I do love this gold, I plan on using it for future custom. I don't necessarily love using Citadel. I've already decided that I'm going to start using Vallejo paint after I run out of Model Masters, but Citadel was something I wanted to experiment with, and I really love this gold, but I don't care about how their process of painting. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I love the gold, and it looks really good on this figure. Now, been ignoring Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite Carol. Let's not do that anymore, because we'll have to come back to some more of this stuff. But her legs are actually different than the other two. So her legs are bodysuit legs, because one, I thought, with these legs here, these are again from Blink. They're relatively the biggest legs that fit on an average size figure for female. These bodysuit legs are the same length, but they're a little thinner. They do have more fabric ripples and details and things like that, so you can see in her ankles and all along the thighs there, you can see some of the ripples of the fabric. So it really makes these boots pop. So again, the actual detail here of the gold is sculpted on, and then these buttons are on the inside of the boots. They are actually sculpted on as well. Actually, I made sculpt and then glued it on and then sanded it down, but they're still there. They're you can actually feel them. They're not just painted on like the ones I painted on for this figure. And then as well as these light blue streaks on the thighs, and then the upper torso, or the lower torso, or I should say, yeah, the thighs and then the lower torso, they're all sculpted on. Then the upper torso and the arms, those light blue streaks are painted on, just because I didn't feel like sculpting it on, but it still works. It looks really good. Again, with the belt, the sash, I made that as well. However, I made this one a lot differently, because with this one, again, I sculpted this belt on. This one actually is just made of plastic. I think this one isn't 45D. I think this one is a different brand. It's specialty resin, Flexit 90. I believe it's what I used for all of this and going around. Again, made that all myself. Although I did do something kind of weird and special back here with this part of the sash. So if you've been following along with the channel, I made a Nana Shimura a few weeks ago, and I used part of the Shuri cape, her whatever you call that, wraps around her torso, and I had to cut this piece off of that for Nana Shimura. So this was just laying around in my basement, and I was like, you know what, that kind of could wrap around and make some really nice fabric ripples like it's supposed to be a sash. So I took the plastic that I had already made and just glued it right on top, and it works well enough. It's not beautiful or perfect, but this part does look really cool, but the rest of it doesn't. It wasn't long enough to make a full-on sash, but it's still functional and I'm fine with it. We have that same deal with the arms. Oops. Okay, let's just make this a single video going forward. We have the same deal with the arms here, that they are actually bodysuit arms. So these bodysuit arms are from the Deadly Origins Black Widow. So you can see some fabric ripples all along the elbows there, and also on the wrists and stuff. You can see I did have some paint rub there. I didn't sand this pin down enough, so some paint is coming off of that. I can't fix that, unfortunately. I'm just gonna have to live with it. We do also have the buttons that are sculpted on there, sculpted on here on the wrists or on the forearms, and again that's the same detail back on every one of the figures. They all have the sculpted on shoulders and the chest. All of that stuff is more or less the same. Now we can just finally cover her heads and her faces. So finally, I've already made a Captain Marvel, Miss Marvel in the past, and I used the Dazzler head for that. I'll bring that one out shortly, but it is the same head here on this Dazzler, but repainted. And one of these is an actual Dazzler head. The other two are reproductions that I made with my own plastic. If you can guess, great on you, but I will tell you right now, this one right here is the actual Dazzler head with Hasbro plastic, and then these two are reproductions as I casted them and molded them and then made my own heads of that. So that being said, it doesn't save me from having to repaint them. And of course, we got that one real glaringly bad face here. I did kind of mess this one up. One, I didn't glue the hair on there perfectly. Secondly, I also should have spent a little bit more time making sure the head fits the hair, because it's way off. Her ear should be in this hole in this area, but I guess I didn't spend enough time making sure it fit. So we've got a lot of misfires on that head and that hair, but the other two, not so bad. Also, I just painted her face bad, so just you know, it's just I messed that one up really badly. This one I painted pretty well. I think this one turned out incredibly good. Her hair is this one right here. This is Age of Apocalypse Jean Grey, so it is the exact same hair, just repainted. And I cut off this little piece right there. Let me pull this out so you can actually see. I cut off this little piece of hair right there, and that's about it. And it just goes right on there. I made sure it's shaped, and it fits that head, not perfectly, but good enough. And lastly, this one, again, it's the same head. This one's paint came out the best, I think, as far as her eyes and stuff go. And then her hair is meant to be more slick back, because that's what I was going for. That's what she kind of looked like in those early days of this redesign. She had more slick back hair. And then it is the hair from the Deadly Origins Black Widow. So she had that very slick back hair. By far, again, I think of the three of these, my favorite is the Ultimate Alliance 3 one, just because I love the way the hair looks on that figure, and I love the more simplistic design for what it's worth, without all the extra colors on the boots and stuff. Now, I could have and maybe should have painted it a different color blue, but other than that, I think this one came out the best overall. The worst one is Marvel Ultimate, honestly, just because of how the sash turned out and me messing up her hair. Other than that, if I had did her head a little bit better, I might like that one more. Speaking of other heads, I also painted a helmeted head for Carol, because she's supposed to have that as well. But I actually used the movie head and not the original head that came with the original Captain Marvel, mostly because that head would not fit on these torsos. It doesn't, it's not compatible. So let's actually see what this really bad one looks like with this head on. All right, and there she is. We have the helmeted version on the Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, and yeah, she looks a lot better now because we don't have that messed up face. So I did have to repaint this as well, all of the hair color and so on. That actually goes into another reason why I did all three of them at the same time, is because I wanted the flesh tone to match. So if I did say this one just now and then waited a couple months and then did this one and then waited another couple months and did this one, there's no guarantee that I would have been able to get the flesh tone to all be the same, because I have to mix that flesh tone to make a custom color. With Model Masters, they only have 2 flesh tone colors. So if I want someone that's really light, I will just use the light. If I want someone that's really tan, I'll use the warm one. If I want someone in between, I have to mix it. So I wanted to make sure they all matched. And that's also important so I can do more head swaps just like I did here. Let's do another head swap. Okay, so here we are with the swapped heads. I took the head off of Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 and put it over here on original Captain Marvel. I took the original Captain Marvel head and put it on Marvel Infinite, and took the helmet head and now it's on Marvel Ultimate Alliance. The flesh tones are all swappable, so I did paint the neck. So the neck is painted there, so you can have all that match as well. So yeah, that's all what I wanted. I wanted it all to match, to make sure it matches. Hopefully, now like I said, I'm probably going to use Vallejo paint in the future. They have a wider selection of flesh tone paints, so I could say XX paint is the flesh tone paint that I'm going to use for Carol, and I don't have to mix it anymore, so they'll all match in the future, as opposed to, again, having to mix it and try to make a custom color. So I won't have to stress out about this in the future, because I have actually a couple other characters that I want to do, or I would do at the same time, to make sure the flesh tone matches and have swappable heads and things like that. But if I don't have to worry about that in the future, I don't have to stress out and do a 10-hour stream and paint 3 figures at the same time. Anyway, let's go ahead and do a quick comparison of Captain Marvel with the originals and all the other figures that I have for Carol. Alright, we got Carolception going on. If you can't tell, I am a Captain Marvel Carol Danvers fan. So we got my 3 customs in the back for Captain Marvel, and then this I made a full-on year ago, the original Miss Marvel costume. And I can tell you right now, if I were to remake this, which is something I've been thinking about, I would make her relatively differently, although it would be the same paint, and it would be the same build. I would go about painting her differently. The chest symbol I painted, it's sculpted on, but it's a different paint that's actually yellow, so I prefer that to be gold now. I was into sculpting everything back then, so I sculpted these lines to separate, to create the cloth like. I wouldn't do that anymore. I might still sculpt the bottom part, but I'm not 100% sure on that. And then the blue is, like I said, the blue here is actually the same, the blue, dark blue pearl, that's the same blue that I used here on this Ultimate Alliance Carol, but like I said, I mixed black into that. This one I don't believe I did, I don't remember, but it is the same blue, and you can see some of the same streakiness in that as well. It's kind of the same deal, so that's just how that paint is, unfortunately. One cool thing that I didn't even attempt to do, well, I did attempt to do, but I didn't even have this figure for a reference, is that I wanted to try to have this flesh tone, or the flesh tone on the new figures, match this one that I did a year ago. And I didn't even have this out with me next to me when I was making that mix, but they actually do match. They're actually almost perfectly matched in color. So that makes me super happy. I could swap heads if I wanted to. because this also again is the Dazzler head with the Dazzler hair, so I meant to make sure I use the same face for all of the new customs. Now, for Miss Marvel, the more recognizable version of classic Carol, I guess. This is how Hasbro had her. This is how she looked. Like I said, I don't have this together anymore, but it's the same body mold as this one, and this one's way shorter than my builds and way curvier as well, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I do intend on remaking this to look more like these, so she'll be a little slimmer but still have plenty of thighs and plenty of hips. Here's a more of a direct comparison. You can see how much different a body and build that would be. So I'm going to remake this to make it look more like this, and later. It's just not going to happen right now. I got a lot more things to work on, but this will happen. I will fodder this sooner than later, and I'm just going to take the hair and take the sash directly off of this and put it on to the new version of it. You can see how greatly different her skin tone is too. Let me know, do you think she should be this dark or should she be this light? Because I obviously like her like this, that's why I painted her that way. But yeah, I'm just going to take this off and then take that off and put it on the new build, and she'll look more or less like this, I guess, for what it's worth. And I'm pretty excited to make her, but like it's going to be a few months from now most likely. And yeah, that's it. Hopefully I will make it really good looking, and this one is good. Like I said, I might remake it just to clean up some of the messes here. And I've learned so much in the last year of making customs. It's just things that I would just do differently. One thing that I didn't mention that I should have earlier to wrap this video up, the arms on both this Carol and the one in the back, the Marvel Infinite version, are bodysuit arms, but the arms on the classic Carol are the same ones that I put on this Miss Marvel here, and they are blink arms. They are these more, they're not clothed, anything like that. They're very muscularly toned arms, but they're not super huge like these super huge arms. They're not that. Although, again, I like these arms plenty. I think this just looks more appropriate for her build. The one thing that I didn't realize was going to happen is this. See how loose and flimsy this is? That sucks, and it's like that on both arms. Very loose and flimsy. Shouldn't be that way. I really hate that. But again, I use the same arms in here, and this, not at all loose and flimsy. It works like it's supposed to. So I don't know exactly why. I mean, I know the pin is very small, but this top is a female beetle top. This top is a Kate Bishop one. So I guess because they're different in that regard, that this one accepts those pins a lot better than this one, is the only guess that I have. I'm going to be working on a possible solution to that in the future because I really enjoy using these arms, and I have quite a few buff ladies that I want to have very muscular and toned arm, but without having it be a huge arm like these. Now I do have uses for these as well, but you know, I got to work that out. So anyway, thanks for joining me. I do say that this is part of my Marvel vs. Capcom collection, so this one will go with the Marvel vs. Capcom collection. This one is going to go on the wall with my just other flying characters, and this one will be standing up with all of the rest of the Avengers. So I'm pretty excited to have 3 different versions like that, and I will definitely be making more Carol Danverses in the future. I do have, like I said, Miss Marvel planned, as well as did I say Miss Marvel? Yeah, this Miss Marvel planned, and then I think I'm going to try to swing high for the dark Captain Marvel or whatever it's called. She's like black and red or something like that. I might do that in the future. And I have some movie versions as well. That's right. I want to do a couple of her alternate looks that's not in this costume for the movie version of Carol. So look forward to that one. Those are going to be kind of fun, and I won't spoil which ones I'm going to do. But if you like those movies and you know what she's wearing in those movies, then you know what I might be making. So that's going to be it for. Oh yeah, the blue Captain Marvel, by the way, the in-game, the Avengers in-game version of her costume, I was gonna make that, but they're actually making their own, so I don't have to worry about that. It's coming out literally in September. Amazon exclusive, should be here next week actually at the time of this recording, so that's pretty exciting. Yeah, so I don't have to worry about that, and then we'll see what happens with her in the future. Anyway, more Carol coming, more Marvel vs. Capcom stuff on the way, and then but I'm going to be doing some other figures. I actually have DC characters coming up. I'm sorry for this being a long rambling video, but it is a lot to cover. DC characters coming up, so those will be my next couple customs. I'm going to take a break for a little while. I don't know how long the break is going to last, but when I come back from that break, it will be Marvel vs. Capcom stuff when I come back from that break. But again, two more figures to cover and then break. So I will see you guys next time. Peace.